Ladies and gentlemen, I have here before me my very first set of show notes because today we are going over WrestleMania 37 from last night. And actually, you're already groaning. Oh my gosh, this is going to be the show itself was 2 nights. How long is this video itself going to be? Um it's actually going to be very short because there's not much to go over. So the first night starts with Vince McMahon making the first appearance of anyone in front of a public audience in 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day. And it was pretty weird because, for instance, there was people who were wrestling the following night who had no match on the card that night in their ring gear. Like Kevin Owens, for example, or just other random people who weren't wrestling on that night. But then Roman Reigns was in a suit. So Roman Reigns is allowed to wear a suit. He's allowed to be outside of his ring gear. That's the one. It was, jeez Louise, it was Edge. Edge was the guy who was in his full like trench coat, ring entrance attire, and he was the main event of the following night. A very booby national anthem. For this being a kid show, there was a couple of things that completely crossed the line in terms of a children's viewing audience, and just the getup of the woman who sang the national anthem. It was kind of it was very revealing. It was pretty surprising. And then of course night one was delayed with 30 minutes, over 30 minutes of weather, like lightning, rain. We get all that. Yet it was actually good. The delay ended up, I think the delay to night one of WrestleMania ended up helping it because there was a couple promos, especially at the beginning. Drew McIntyre, The New Day, MVP was pretty good too. There's a few promos in the very beginning that were very, very good. I actually think the delay kind of helped build that anticipation. Byron Saxton said, "Oh, we've had to wait this long, and what's waiting a little more?" He was right. I think it actually helped almost build that anticipation for the first show in front of a live audience in over a year. Really helped build that sort of like, oh, let's get to it already. The opening segment was an F. It was super weird. Hulk Hogan gets booed. Match one, Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, was a pretty awesome match up until they made Drew McIntyre look like an idiot. They made him look like an idiot. And it's questionable swanton dive outside of the ring by Drew McIntyre. I guess it was shades of The Undertaker having that really big guy that's able to do that sort of impressive dive outside of the ring. I mean, it was impressive, but it was somewhat questionable. I mean, I thought Drew McIntyre could have easily got hurt, especially the outside of the ring was still wet from the rain. So any big spots to the outside like that in that first match were pretty dangerous. I didn't quite understand that spot, but he doesn't get a Claymore off because of MVP yelling, "Bobby, Bobby." Probably the worst distraction ever. They just made Drew McIntyre look like an idiot. It was a terrible finish. I don't understand why Bobby Lashley went over instead of Drew McIntyre. I guess I'm just a mark in that regard. I really just thought, the way they build it up, I just really thought that they were building Bobby Lashley to be it's one thing if you don't see Brock Lesnar for months on end and then all of a sudden Drew McIntyre takes the belt off Brock Lesnar. It's like, oh, what a relief. Like, thank gosh, Drew McIntyre, he's saved us from Brock Lesnar. But they made, in my opinion, I thought they were just doing a really good job of building up Bobby Lashley as this big killer for Drew McIntyre to have a legitimate win over an active champion. But I guess not. So there was a backstage segment, didn't do much. It introduced Bayley, and it ends up, I guess, in retrospect, it was all right because it introduces us to the idea that Bayley's basically hijacked the hosting duties of WrestleMania both nights. On the rewatch, I actually rewatched WrestleMania Night 1 before Night 2, and I liked the first time I watched it, I liked it a lot. But the second time watching it, actually, the WWE Championship match was a little bit sloppier than I first thought. I was just really into it. I was having troubles with Peacock though. Not much can be said about the women's tag team match. It was tag team turmoil match. It was just really bad outside of Liv Morgan getting a pretty solid push, I would say. I mean, Liv Morgan didn't look like strong. She wasn't built as like a killer or something, but she got beaten up and absorbed a lot of punishment and was still able to secure pins and like keep her team moving. I thought they actually did a really good job with Liv Morgan. Ruby Riott, they would just have her do one move and then throw her outside. I mean, it was basically Liv Morgan was on her Sasha Banks tip. I mean, she really was in, especially the second time, because the first time around the match was just that bad, but the second time around I really took notice of Liv Morgan doing a really good job of selling, just getting the crap kicked out of her. But it was an F plus. I gave on the second go around when I took the Liv Morgan thing into consideration. It was an F plus. Then that's when I ran into problems with Peacock. So I barely even watched the Seth Rollins Cesaro match the first time around. The second time around, I thought it was pretty good, but there was spots where it seemed like they were better on paper. They probably went through this in their heads and thought, this is going to be sweet. We're going to chain this together. Because there was like I don't know if it's necessarily chain wrestling, but they were chaining together like traditional like grapple moves, and they were like chaining them together. And that was pretty cool. But there was just some spots where they went a little too far with like, we're going to do this and it's going to connect into this and connect into that. It got a little, I don't want to say it was sloppy, but it just didn't necessarily feel right. But their chemistry overall was pretty good. And it was supposedly like a Shades of Ring of Honor match, because that's where these guys both started. I gave it a C-. It was certainly the best match so far. Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler get interviewed backstage, unify the tag team belts already. Why if the women have tag team belts that represent all three brands, do we have a SmackDown and a Raw and presumably an NXT men's tag team champion? Just have one tag team championship belt. There's less than 5 tag teams between SmackDown and Raw combined at this point, if that. There's no sense to. And the SmackDown titles didn't even make the card. And the Raw tag team titles, which did make the card, were won by not even a tag team for dating back to Nicholas and Braun Strowman. The Raw tag team titles keep being won at WrestleMania by non-tag teams. Like the tag team division can't be any more dead. Just get rid of the SmackDown and Raw tag team championships. Not to mention they look ugly. If they could just combine them and go back to it, I'd bring out my WWE tag team championship. It's perfect. So the Raw tag team championship, perfect segue. It was terrible. People, the crowd seemed to actually get in and get behind the Omos character or whatever. But the thing was, we saw on night 2 the repackaging of Dabba-Kato. That was a big man debut done right. To me, it was just so obvious that anything that Omos did was the New Day doing 100% of it. At one point, he flicks his pinky, and I believe it was Kofi Kingston does like two front flips off of it. Like, cool. So the New Day is really, 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 really good, and the New Day can put over this guy as a menacing, huge killer heel guy, right? That doesn't make me into Omos at all. He sucks. Like, all he did was, he didn't even do anything. Dabba-Kato at least came out and like did this chop thing where like he actually did something on the offensive. Almost essentially just stood there while New Day did flips around him, and they're like, "Oh, did you see that? He held out his pinky, and the New Day ran around it and did 3 flips off it." It was dumb to me. I mean, the New Day were being funny. They were trying to save the crowd, because at this point, the crowd was actually dead. I don't know, like the Cesaro winning, and I guess I should have brought that up. Cesaro winning was so obvious. Like, they couldn't start WrestleMania off with 3 straight heel wins. So Cesaro winning. I don't even think I mentioned who won the women's tag title match. It was Natalia and Tamina, who I guess were baby faces, but they won in the most heelish way possible, especially when they just squashed Liv Morgan's like it just didn't make any sense. That match was so bad. So you just knew Cesaro was gonna win. So even though it was more entertaining in-ring action, it was just so obvious, and the show had just sucked up to this point. It really did. So New Day tried their best to save it, but nothing could be saved. Like after watching Nicholas and Braun Strowman win these same Raw tag team titles, and now watching a guy win them in his debut match, all at WrestleMania, get rid of these Raw and SmackDown tag titles. Just have one title for all brands. It'll make the tag team championships actually feel special. That wow, there's a tag team that goes around to each show defending them, and that could be what the New Day does. That way, when they do appear on SmackDown, Big E can maybe do something with them. Maybe they can turn that into, every time New Day is out there, Big E is with them. Like it's their thing. But then after a while, Big E gets tired of New Day expecting him to just come hang out with them. And Big E turns on him. It could be something cool for SmackDown on Friday nights on Fox. But just throw that idea out because that's a halfway decent idea. And I just came up with it off the top of my head. Steel cage match, Braun and Shane McMahon. Why is Shane McMahon being presented as if he is a UFC pound for pound? Like, what is going on? Why is Sean O'Man? Why is Shane Michaels? They should change his name. He should start doing super kicks. He should just take it all the way with it. And really, they should have done that. And in terms of like a world of professional wrestling, they could have had him do like super kicks and jump off stuff, which he's actually good at. They could have presented him in like a wrestling-y way where it wasn't so outrageous. They actually try to use the legitimacy of like mixed martial arts and UFC to be like, oh, Shane McMahon, he actually trains in Muay Thai. He actually has a real ground game. He can kick the living crap out of any of these buff WWE superstars, including the biggest, buffest of all, Braun Strowman. What? At one point, Byron Saxton, who is the babyface commentator, gives in, as we all are supposed to as an audience. He gives in and says, all right, I admit it. Shane does have great hands. Shane has great hands. He's not the Undertaker. At least Brock Lesnar was willing to go along with it and actually have Undertaker show up at WrestleMania because he's like, I don't know, he's an Undertaker who, that to some degree, like as ridiculous as that was, now they're saying that Shane McMahon is legitimately got the best hands in WWE because he trains, he has the experience, and by God, at this point, he's been wrestling on WrestleMania in one-on-one matches for over 20 years. So, gosh, I did like, this was probably the first match where, they did have me convinced at one point, like they're going to have Shane McMahon win, aren't they? Like this is how far this has gone. And I guess, again, it does play into a little bit of, even as someone that thinks they're an experienced fan, like I can be pulled in, I can be made a mark now and again, because I thought they were going to have Shane McMahon win this match. And at least the only thing, I gave it a D+. The only thing you can say about this match is that Braun Strowman won. And by the way, this is Braun Strowman's singles debut in WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken. He's done Andre the Battle memorials. He's done all that because a couple years ago, he's undefeated, hasn't lost a match, but we have Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. I believe it was the lead up to 34. And so they had him lose to Roman Reigns at Fastlane, the pay-per-view before WrestleMania. So, wow, they give him this huge, glaring, massive loss in a championship match, the pay-per-view before WrestleMania, and it kills him to the point that they didn't even have him on the main card the following month, and he was wrestling for the championship, and he was undefeated. It made no sense. And then if I'm not mistaken, that would mean that Roman Reigns then the next month went on and just lost to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania anyway. What a waste. But that's just because 3-4 years later, we could have heel Roman Reigns in the main event, ruining it. Hall of Fame segment. This I didn't get. The 2020 Hall of Fame segment. The 2021 one, the following night, was all right. I enjoyed like Kane being there and him like being the headliner. It's kind of cool that Kane got that spotlight. But the NWO like last year's class, I gave it an F plus. They had more than a half hour delay. They couldn't have figured out a way to present that like backstage or just run at this point. Just run the promo you have and skip it. It's already last year's class. And plus, I listened to 83 Weeks podcast, so I was actually excited to see Eric Bischoff not only appeared on WrestleMania the following night, he spoke on it in a backstage segment. So this continued both the backstage segments and the Hall of Fame segment, just being not good. And when the show was already delayed, like just keep it moving. Oh, and so that's when we get to the fact that the Bad Bunny match was just because of the crowd involvement. You have to say it was probably the second best match of the whole night. And this night one was better than night two. So, I mean, he had one of the best matches in all of WrestleMania. His working punches were garbage, right? They were terrible. Honestly, kill me. Just watching this match, all I could think was just kill me. Like, I had to wait for Bad Bunny to get in the ring to finally start having some fun as a viewer. Bad Bunny? Really? The rest of the card, what the heck? All I could say was I'm still watching and please hurry, Sasha. I just no words. I had no words. I put because somehow it's a C. Like I gave it a C. Like just because somehow it to that point it had been the best match. I just think because of the crowd involvement, like with Seth Rollins and Cesaro, the ending was too predictable and it was fun, but the Bad Bunny really entertained people. His entrance was cool. It just kills me that kayfabe just gets slaughtered just time and again. Like, oh, hey, look, anyone can do it. Bad Bunny can step in and kick the crap out of Miz. Do you at home, Nicholas? Are you still out there? Do you want to be a WWE superstar still? Come on. Just kills me as a lifelong wrestling fan. And then the main event of night one, I have it as an A. If we're gonna like, if I were to keep doing this, and I would have to like, if we're talking about like an all-time scale, it'd probably be like a B or B plus. But in terms of I put A. In terms of this show, it was an A plus plus plus. Like it can't get any better. Like this main event saved the show that night, and in my opinion, it saved the entire weekend. Like this WrestleMania would have been terrible if not for night one's main event. Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, go get your free trial of Peacock and go watch this match. It's a moment in time. And not only is it two black women wrestling in the main event for the championship at WrestleMania, but then there was an Asian male ref was also refereeing it. So do we think that WWE was sort of cheaply like covering all their bases? Hey, they did it. They did it. They actually did it. They put two black women, they put an Asian man in the ring alone and gave them ample time to have a main event that was just completely awesome. I thought it was awesome. I thought Sasha had that reminds me. Also, go watch if you don't watch the Drew McIntyre interview right before. Watch Big E. Lord, it's his promo during the delay. He just goes full just preacher mode. Is so funny. But that main event, nothing felt cheap. Nothing felt cheap. There was one confusing spot because I wasn't aware. I was just thinking that Sasha is a babyface. She is a babyface, so that's why she rolls in the ring at the 8 count. For anyone that's watching thinking she's a heel, that's why she rolls into the ring. And even if she was a heel, like it's a main event of WrestleMania, you kind of want to just have a definitive win either way. But no, she was a babyface. the use of Bianca Belair's hair, I think we all could have assumed it, but it takes a great like Sasha Banks and a great like Bianca Belair to use the hair in such a classic psychological way. Just awesome. At one point, Bianca's up on the top rope, and it looks like she's gonna start crying. Like this is my finisher. Oh my god! Like I'm here. Like she. I think she broke kayfabe, but in a way that actually, for once, protected it. Like she made me think that she was like crying on the top of the rope because she was gonna actually come off and land her move and win. But then Sasha kicked out, so it was like they were like breaking the fourth wall in 3D or something. I mean, it was something else. So it was a predictable finish. Like a couple of the only finish that wasn't really predictable to me was the first match. But that match, okay, cool. You gave me a surprise ending. It was terrible. You buried Drew McIntyre for no reason, and that was a burial, folks. They can say, oh, well, he passed out. He passed out. There was no visual like Austin at WrestleMania 13. Him passing out in 10 seconds from the master lock is not, oh, he passed out. He never gave up. That's not the same thing. So the main event of night one was just incredible. I honestly hardly have words. But yeah, Sasha Banks didn't have fangs. Sasha Banks, I guess, just has really like prominent fangy looking teeth. I don't know. Oh no, you guys, we seem to have misplaced the notes. Oh, here we are. Never mind. All right, so on the night two. So basically night one, great main event, very questionable card. Everyone should be looking themselves in the mirror. That bad baby. Knew I was going to say that. I knew I was going to say that Bad Bunny had the second best match on the card. They should all be looking themselves in the mirror on that. Match one, Randy Orton versus The Fiend with Alexa Bliss. Folks, let me tell you this. I want you to look. This cannot happen at your WrestleMania. This cannot happen. You cannot have the first match be not only just a terrible wrestling match, but in a formula that's proven not to work at I think several of your B pay-per-views. The red lighting, people. The minute the red lighting came on, I mean, The Fiend had like a cool entrance and we get all that. But once the bell rings and the red lighting was there to stay, oh, people, I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was mortified. Randy Orton did have sick ring gear, had a nice pop. That was a cool way to start the show. Oh, I glossed over the actual opening segment of this night. So different from Hulk Hogan coming out in his Hulkamania attire and Titus O'Neil coming out in Florida Gator colors from the night before, they come out night two as pirates. Hulk Hogan came out dressed. He looked like Captain Crunch. He looked like Captain Crunch. If you haven't seen it already on Twitter. Honestly, you guys, the backstage and like the hosting segments are the redeeming quality of night two. Nothing that takes place inside of the ring will leave you satisfied. But the segments, like the skits on this show, and imagine if they had done this night one. Like night one would have, between Bad Bunny and the main event, night one, and you can almost, Seth Rollins and Cesaro, night one goes down as a very good WrestleMania. But the segments on night one were they just made the show like feel like it was going on longer than it should. And then night two, the segments didn't make me feel that way. The matches by the main event, I honestly, I was hysterical by the main event. The matches had been so bad. And for whatever reasons, the segments had been so like funny and good. I was hysterical by the main event. I gave the main event an F. I guess we're just skipping right to the main event of night two. Night two sucked. I shouldn't even have to review this thing. Like I said, Randy Orton and the Fiend with the red light. Come on. And then the finish, which honestly, the finish made my blood stand up. Not my hair. My blood was like touching the inside of my skin. It was no longer flowing in the veins. It was like, I don't know. I can't explain what was happening to my blood, but it was probably not one of. It was probably the scariest single image I think WWE has ever portrayed on their television. And some people didn't like think that. I guess some people, like Solomon Monster Sounds Off is a very popular wrestling podcaster. He was, saying it's the Papa Shango. We've seen all that. But Alexa Bliss, you have to give Alexa Bliss a lot of credit. She's really good. Alexa Bliss is really good at basically whatever she does. So I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And aren't there kids in the audience? Aren't there kids watching at home? I'm on the back nine of my 20s, for crying out loud. I'm a full-grown man, and I was terrified. And they had to have made kids cry. And like this was the beginning of the show. Really weird. And then and then the Fiend loses. So can't understand it. I gave the opening segment an A++ because it didn't matter that Hulk Hogan was getting booed. He looked like Captain Crunch. I gave it an F+. I can't even remember where the plus comes from. Randy Orton's ring attire, I guess. Match was below average at best. I don't know. Eric Bischoff is talking A++. Eric Bischoff's talking on WrestleMania. Oh, and then dressed as Captain Crunch, Hulk Hogan goes, hey, Eric, come on, let's go over here. Let's go over here. 83 weeks. We're going to go 83 weeks. Just for no reason. Just blurting out 83 weeks. 83 weeks, Eric. We're going to go. So the fact that there not only was Eric Bischoff on this show talking and then appearing later on, but he got multiple shameless plugs from Captain the Crunch Hogan. Unbelievable. I mean, I am now curious what his podcast subscribers, especially on YouTube, I want to see if his YouTube subscription base goes up because he just had 83 weeks shamelessly plugged on WrestleMania multiple times. It was awesome. On to match 2, tag team championship. Actually, you know what? This women's tag team championship match wasn't that bad, aside for like there was the one spot where Nia's on the corner and Natalya and Tamina are standing there forever, not doing anything but just waiting for the cheerleader spot where like they catch her, and like it was so bad. Takes you right out of the match. Wrestling's fake. It just takes you right out of it, right? There was a terrible Natalya hot tag. Like it's one thing if Natalya is getting this opportunity because she's been with the company forever. She's been with the company for years, and we just feel bad for Natalya. We've never gotten her over, and you know what? Dang it, WWE, it's our fault Natalya never got over. So we're going to give her this opportunity, and we're going to give her this match anyway, even though there's no reason whatsoever in any capacity that she deserves it because she's not over whatsoever. WWE has been doing this for years. They've been acting like Natalya's been bullied into not getting over, and so they put her in one-on-one matches at SummerSlam for the title, and they give her extended time in a tag match for the titles on WrestleMania. They've been doing this for years. She's just not over. No one cares about her. It's just time. It's time, Natalya. Bret Hart's one of my favorite wrestlers ever. I would have loved to see Natalya get over. It's just never happened, and it's sad and weird at this point that they keep pushing her out there and expect like, yeah, Natalya, you're so full of personality. And I don't know why I'm tearing into Natalya this bad. She doesn't deserve it. She's a sweet girl. We've seen her outside the ring on Total Divas. She's great, but she's just not over. So expecting that she's going to get this boisterous, crowd goes crazy hot tag. What? So the terrible spot from Natalya, terrible hot tag. Natalya and Tamina are the most questionable baby faces ever. But Tamina was over. Couldn't tell you how. Couldn't tell you when, but she was over. Seriously, they were chanting Tamina, Tamina. It was really weird. Shades of her father, Jimmy the Murderer Snuka. So that was cool. Heels win because, as my roommate screamed, Shayna's the legal woman, as Natalya is being a dumb baby face. Again, questionable baby faces. They're not, or Natalya wasn't over, and then the terrible hot tag, whatever. That's not her fault. It's not her fault that she's not over, guys. But yo, she doesn't know who the legal woman is. That's just like, come on, you. Why are you doing this to your baby faces? With Drew McIntyre looking like an idiot with the Bobby, the MVP distraction, if you can even call it that, and then Natalya just going in on Nia Jax, not realizing she's not the legal woman. So Shayna just comes in and pwns Natalya, and there's the match. So heels win, and I guess Randy Orton was a heel. I don't know. I guess. I mean, the Fiend should have won to keep his character going, whether he was heel or babyface. I think the way he scared the living daylights out of me with the thing with Alexa, you could argue. I mean, he should be a heel. He's terrifying. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Too short, too fast paced. What was the Battleground 2016 reference John O'Clock was talking to? They brought John Bradshaw Layfield in to commentate this match because why? And then he proceeds to say Battleground 2016. What are you talking about? I'm pretty sure I watched Battleground 2016. I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, you guys remember that C pay-per-view Battleground 2016, right? And a terrible finish. And then Kevin Owens stuns Sami Zayn. He stuns Logan Paul. He's freaking hardcore. He's punk rock. And then he goes and he hugs and kisses his family. If you're going to steal Stone Cold's finisher and his gimmick and just everything, could you at least do it right and be like a sort of a tweener? And if you're not going to do the anti-hero tweener thing, at least just be cool enough to not go hug and kiss your family. You idiot, Kevin Owens. And take off your basketball shorts. You're in the middle of a wrestling ring. Wear some wrestling attire while you're wrestling in a wrestling ring, you piece of human freaking garbage. You're a nice guy, Kevin Owens. But in terms of, if we're talking about your wrestling character, sorry, Kevin Steen. Sure, you're a nice guy. Kevin Owens, get effed. Get effed in the A for all I care. Okay. Fourth match of night 2 was actually probably the best match. And for not necessarily all the right reasons, but United States Championship, Sheamus versus Riddle. Riddle does a jackhammer now? Is that just to actually piss off Goldberg? Or did Goldberg, was it like Goldberg told him, yo, I don't care? Because I know Riddle and Goldberg have had history. Like legitimate, like Riddle just talks crap about Goldberg and Goldberg doesn't like him. Like, I don't think Riddle has gotten the okay to do the jackhammer. And of course they don't call it the jackhammer. It's some other dumb freaking name. So yeah, Matt Riddle does the jackhammer. And there's some botches, but we're moving along, right? But it's freaking good. And then all of a sudden it turns into Botchamania. What? Was Matt Riddle greased up like a pig or something? Sheamus just could not hold on to Riddle. They botched so much. And then at one point, they did a spot where they botched the same spot twice. They botched it, worked around it pretty well, and then got right back to it and botched it again. Oh, it was so uncomfortable to watch. But I shouldn't say that. It wasn't even uncomfortable. It was actually funny. Like, it almost added to the match. Like, it wasn't one of those like cringeworthy, like with so much other stuff on this show. It actually almost added to the match. We had a legitimate Botchamania at WrestleMania. It was hard hitting, almost too hard hitting. And once you looked at Matt Riddle after the match, and that Michael Cole should be lambasted for just screwing up time and again on both shows. But yeah, at one point he said, because we were looking for, we knew it too, we didn't get it, the big dog, because he's a heel now, so he's not the big dog. But on night one, you can guarantee it was boss time. So Michael Cole, at one point in the match, goes, Riddle should have known when you're wrestling Sheamus, you're gonna be in for a fight. You know you're in for a fight. As soon as the match ends and you see Riddle's busted up lips and stuff, it's the best recall possibly ever that Michael Cole's ever had. Like, he legitimately. I'm sorry. It's literally so funny. He says, with Matt Riddle's busted up lips, literally, you know you're in for a fight. It literally comes right back with it. You know when you wrestle Sheamus, you're in for a fight. Just the way he says fight. It's just so funny. Like, what is the matter with you, Michael Cole? Oh, I totally lied to you guys when I was like, yeah. I'm going to stop doing that, by the way. That's got to be the most annoying thing about this channel. I lost a subscriber and I lied to you guys. I'm not at 35 subscribers. Yeah, in some fantasy land. I'm at 31 subscribers. And I'm assuming it's because I start every video with like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop doing that crap. Surprise finish that Sheamus wins. So this was actually a good surprise finish. A good surprise finish for sure. Was it just the bad surprise finish of the WWF champion? Oh, that was right. Braun Strowman. But I don't know. I guess I knew they were going to have Braun win. Just because it's like, you cannot have Shane McMahon beat Braun Strowman. But yeah, that was a surprise. But then again, the U.S. title, who cares about the U.S. title? Who cares about the U.S. title? I mean, seriously, the only thing that they did, one of the few things they did right with the show, probably the only thing they did right in building the card in terms of where to place matches, was that they put the U.S. title in front of the Intercontinental Championship. So I thought, because they made the Intercontinental title, sorry to say it like that, but the Intercontinental title, the title that Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart and, the best in-ring workers of their day, they all competed for, is basically a badge of honor and a literal championship belt to prove who was the best in-ring performer most of the time. Most of the time, it was just who was the best in-ring performer. Like Bret Hart said on Dark Side of the Ring, he reinforced the wrestling. To me, the Intercontinental Championship during the 80s and early 90s was the belt that reinforced the wrestling aspect of the sports entertainment show. This match was a Nigerian drumline fight or whatever they called it. They announced right before I almost used this as a mic when I have a mic. What in the world am I thinking? But right before the match, they announced from inside the ring that the Nigerian drumline match has essentially, you can only win by pinfall or submission, and there are no rules. So all the rules that you may have thought were accustomed to the Nigerian drumline match, it is in fact quite simply, quite literally, a no disqualification match. That is all. So a no DQ match for the Intercontinental title, except it can't just be a no DQ match. It has to be a gimmick Nigerian drumline match with all these. What it turns out to be, this has to be one of the dumbest matches I've ever. Like, who wrote this? Who wrote this and said this has to go on night 2, right before the penultimate women's match? We need a gimmick. Like, who thought of this? I want to know, because you owe us, the fans, an apology. The Nigerian drumline match turns out to be kendo sticks, drums, which, by the way, were never even touched. They basically lined them outside the ring, and that was it. They didn't even touch them. They didn't conceive to even think to pick these drums up. They were never touched. So drums, kendo sticks, tables, and of course a gong. At one point, my roommate and I were thinking about, like, is the gong, like, are we being racist by assuming that it's, or I'm being racist by assuming that it's, from Asia or the eastern part of the world? Why was there a gong? Why? Well, it's percussion, so we can get a gong out there. It actually, so I mentioned those 4 weapons. It actually just turns into a stairs match. A freaking stairs match. No, I'm sorry. A fucking stairs match. I swear to God. It was so bad. Heel Apollo wins too, the Intercontinental title. But again, okay. This was a good big man debut. I will give it that. It did have the good big man debut of this monster like fixture. It's Dabba-Kato just repackaged as like a general, like war guy, colonel thingy. He did like the way that it was presented. He came in and he clocks Big E. And I just thought it was cool looking. I thought it was done really well. Unlike the Omos, where he actually wrestled in the match and was just playing terrible. I don't understand why people thought that was good. Like people thought the Omos thing was good. Kill the belts, kill the tag divisions, just make it one division. And that guy does not need to be a tag team champion. Like, cool. Now you've like legitimized him a little bit with the tag team championship win. Get those belts off them right now and get AJ Styles back to doing AJ Styles thing. There's only so many years left we have of AJ Styles. Can we not waste him by doing this random crap? Raw Women's Championship match was probably hard. I gave the other match a D+. I've not even been saying my ratings. They all sucked, people, so it doesn't matter. D+ for that last match, though. And then this got actually a D. Somehow this was worse. Like the match before it, like, had the cool, interesting big guy run in, and I mean, it was something. At least it was funny that, like, how ridiculous it was. It turned into a stairs match at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title under the guise of a drumline fest fight or something. Raw Women's Championship was really bad. It was Rhea had a decent entrance. I should mention Wale had probably the worst musical performance in the history of anything. Completely lip sync. And they said that one of the biggest names in the game, Wale. And Wale is basically only still in pop culture because of his association with WWE. He's a very fringe name at this point. No offense to Wale, but like Wale was popular like when I was in high school. Yeesh. So it was terrible. Rhea Ripley had a pretty decent entrance. They had to have a live musical guest, and then Asuka comes out next as the champion just to her regular music. No live performance like Rhea got directly before her. Oh, I wonder who's going to win this match. Probably not the chick with the live performance as her entrance. So predictable finish, rushed finish, bad match. The chemistry, I don't often say this. I made a mention of it with the other match, Seth Rollins and Cesaro, really just to have any sort of basis to go off of. Like, if that was like decent chemistry. That wasn't great chemistry, right? Because they even they flubbed a couple. It just feels like they had a lot of great ideas that were only executed so well, and maybe with better chemistry, it would have been a better match. But that match was fine. They had such bad chemistry. Rhea Ripley and Asuka had terrible chemistry. It was a terrible match. I gave it a D That would make it the second worst match on the card behind. I think the tag match honestly was better. Like there was literally more chemistry. Like fans were cheering to me. No, that might have been better than anything in the Raw Women's Championship. That match was just so bad. The only match that was probably better than was the Fiend match, just because the opening match, just because that match was just too scary and too weird and terrible finish. And why did the Fiend not win? And just they just basically made a huge spectacle to bring back the Fiend in his normal, like, he wasn't burnt or anything. He came back like he like walks through this like dimensional shift in time where it melts away his burns and he's automatically healed, and then he loses. Why? So that was that the only match that the women's match was better than was that. Like, congrats. Again, if you compare, like, Bad Bunny was in this spot the night before. Bad Bunny had a better match than Asuka and Rhea Ripley. What? And this is where I said, congratulations, WWE. Bayley's not on the card. I mean, I think Bayley made the most of it. Bayley was great, but in the time she had on camera. But where is Charlotte? You told Charlotte she was pregnant, and so now she was home thinking she was pregnant, and then turns out she wasn't pregnant, but you've already advanced storylines and gone ahead, and she's not in the WrestleMania plans. And why? Why? I mean, get with it. We just watched Rhea Ripley, who's had an awesome match with Charlotte the WrestleMania before, like the one directly before this. Asuka, if I'm not mistaken, has had a great WrestleMania match one-on-one with Charlotte for the SmackDown title, right? These both of them have had great WrestleMania matches because they wrestled one-on-one Charlotte, someone who could have been in this match even. It could just screw it. Just make it back-to-back triple threats in the night two. But they couldn't get it done because, and this is just where just Charlotte. Where is she? Where is Charlotte? Where is Charlotte? Where is she? Because that's how you end up with Rhea Ripley and Asuka pooping the bed in the penultimate match, the match right before the main event. To me, it killed the crowd. How the crowd wasn't dead already, I don't know. They kind of got excited for Dabba-Kato, I guess, looking back. They were into the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Logan Paul thing for sure. The United States Championship was just such a botch. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely think this could have killed the crowd, but then they were up for the main event. Which final host segment, it was pretty good. Nikki Bella comes out and Bayley says something about John Cena. Like, what are you doing here, Bella Twins? John Cena isn't here. And not even directly to Nikki Bella, but to both of them. She says to both Nikki and Brie Bella, what are you doing here? John Cena isn't here. And honestly, Nick, they got booed for it because Bayley was being such a good heel. But I thought Nikki's reaction was great. Like, she just bops the mic right out of Bayley's hand, and like it was good. I don't know if I'm skipping. I'm sure I skipped some segment that she was in or whatever, but really, like, these parts of the night, say, like, after the terrible women's match, having Bayley come out one more time and entertain us, like, just the silver lining of this show. And then the main event. I've been hearing from people that they liked the main event of night two, that WWE did the right thing, and that Roman Reigns is the heel champion moving forward. That would have been cool if they didn't do the exact same thing for Raw. So both Raw and SmackDown, you have heel champions win at WrestleMania. come on, give us a payoff on one of the shows. Both Raw and SmackDown, you have a freaking heel champion leave WrestleMania like in dominant fashion too. Like Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre was dead and buried, people. Dead and buried. Edge and Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns stacked them on top of each other when he pinned them. Dead and buried. Like, what? Are they going to wrestle each other? The only person I can even think of for Bobby Lashley to wrestle is Cesaro. Is he even on Raw? I don't even freaking know anymore. I'm so mad. So I just didn't like the main event. And again, I was hysterical. The matches were so bad. Night 2 was so bad. And I'd rewatched night 1 right before night 2. So at this point, I'd been watching wrestling all day. I was hysterical. There's one spot in the main event where they get the bar from the chair, and Edge and Daniel Bryan are both like giving Roman Reigns a crossface, and they start fighting over Roman Reigns' face, and Roman Reigns' face is like legitimately like being like mangled, and that is funny. It's funny. Like, to me, the main event wasn't good. It was so bad, and then it was funny for a minute, and then finally we slowed down. We finally slow down because the match starts out at a blistering pace, and then you get the predictable guys on the outside while two guys work. It was moving too fast. I mean, maybe it was their attempt to really get the crowd into it from the minute it started, just in case they had to, anticipate one of those like 5-minute matches where it's over, like anytime Brock Lesnar wrestled for the title or Goldberg did. But the match finally slowed down for its first good spot where Roman Reigns power bombs Daniel Bryan through a table, and Daniel Bryan like folds backwards on himself, and he looks all messed up. And out of nowhere, Edge spears Roman Reigns off the chair he was standing on, and Edge is asleep. Edge falls asleep, people. Edge delivers a spear and falls asleep. Roman Reigns took less punishment from the spear than Edge did, who delivered it. Edge delivers his spear to Roman Reigns and proceeds to fall asleep, and I'm right back to laughing. So they slowed down the main event for like 30 seconds just for me to keep laughing at it. It picks up a little in the end, but I could not believe for the life of me that they had Roman Reigns win this thing. How many times? I don't care if he's heel this time. Stop, just something that was cool. When you think about the fact that Edge and Daniel Bryan are both two dudes that prematurely retired, and we never thought we'd see them wrestle again, and then they're here wrestling in the main event of WrestleMania, that was awesome. I give WWE credit for that. They did the right thing there. And I guess too, I was trying to think, I was like, okay, it's not going to be Daniel Bryan. I did think Roman Reigns would win the match, especially as it wore on. I thought Roman Reigns would win the match, which led me to believe that it would be Edge that would win. Because it's like Dwight in The Office. It's the person I most medium suspect. It's not going to be Daniel Bryan, the person I least suspect. It's not going to be Roman Reigns, the person I most suspect to win this match. In my honest opinion, I was like, there's no way. I guess he had been doing some heel work before the match, but throughout the match, they could have built it up to where he was wrestling babyface, and by the end of it, the crowd is salivating for Edge to win, and he does, and it's the greatest comeback story ever. And instead, Roman Reigns wins. And it was just so lame. On top of how terrible the second night was, just in general, the best match was a match filled to the brim with botches. I'm dead serious about that. I mean, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, you can say what you want. That was a decent match. Kevin Owens, that character needs completely redone. You can't be doling out stunners and then going and hugging and kissing your wife and kids. You can't. You can't do that. So that just automatically, like, that's just, so that I gave that a C minus. And United States Championship, despite all the botches almost added to the match. I gave that a C. At one point, Bad Bunny's given a new microphone by Triple H, and Triple H goes, "All right, now I just need you to go out there and do what you do best." And it was a commercial for his new tour. So Bad Baby's done. Like, basically, Bad Baby said, "Hey, promote me for several weeks. I'll wrestle for you at WrestleMania, and then you have to, on WrestleMania, run an ad for my tour." So yeah, he got his tour advertised on as part of WrestleMania. You guys, the show was honestly, the night 2 was an F. I'd say night 1 was almost saved by the main event. It was so good. Night 2 was a complete F, though. F. And I felt bad because I just felt like I hadn't been providing you guys enough content. So I wrote all these notes, y'all. I wrote all these notes for y'all because I don't know. The opening the baseball cards was cool, but I felt like I was sort of losing my way there for a second. And so we'll see. Let me know if you guys want to hear it. I have a 1995 Halloween Havoc podcast completely filled with notes. I have notes, but the thing is, you guys, it's going to take me maybe an hour or two to get through it. So if you guys want me to do that, go right ahead. I can make that tomorrow's episode. We could talk Halloween Havoc 1995. Not that I really want to after I had to sit through this WrestleMania this year for one great match. If I had to do it again, if I had to sit through both nights to get through Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair at the very end, I would do that. I would watch all 13 matches over again just to get to that 14th match, Sasha and Bianca. That was truly, truly something special. F show, 2 nights, 1 great match. And I said F WWE, but like, come on. I was just being emotional. So that does it. They made Hulk Hogan look like a freaking idiot. Hulk Hogan got booed. Can we talk about that before I go? You guys, why did they uncancel Hulk Hogan? Why did they do it? I mean, we know why they did it. Money, obviously, but I wonder how much merchandise Hulk Hogan is currently selling, because every time they bring him out in front of a live audience, he gets booed. Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania, booed in America. In the 80s, it was apple pie, Hulk Hogan. Not even baseball. Baseball, they were going through the Pete Rose scandal. They were going through the amphetamines thing, a little bit of dope. Apple pie, Hulkamania. WWE was in its golden age. And real big time wrestling fans can tell you all about how much of a pain in the butt Hulk Hogan could be backstage. Hulk Hogan, oh, that just doesn't work for me, brother. We've all heard it. We've all heard those stories. And quite honestly, as much as he terrorized, like in particular, WCW in 1994 and 1995 is essentially a terrorist run organization by Hulk Hogan. He is terrorizing those folks, those poor people in Atlanta, Georgia. That was not right, people. That was just not right. But like I said, like, it's almost entertaining to go back and watch and like know that like Pasta Mania and like all these ridiculous things that Hulk Hogan was doing. Like, and when Randy Savage wins the World Heavyweight Championship, I believe at World War III in 1995. No, yeah, it's the three ring. Yeah, it's World War III because that's the three ring thing. When Macho Man wins that and Hulk Hogan just you literally watch a grown man refuse to give up the spotlight to another grown man. It's so funny. But I mean Hulk Hogan, but most regular people don't know that. They just don't know that. So I don't understand how I guess the sex tape thing really resonates with people. It really resonates with people. Like he said some weird stuff about his daughter. His relationship with his daughter has been speculated to be pretty weird at times too. Like I just think the sex tape, and also he made how much money from, who knows if he collected all of it, but how much money he stood to make from the lawsuit. And he was the one saying the racist stuff. I mean, he got canceled, people, and we brought him back. And I'm not saying that I'm for or against any of it or all of it or whatever. It's just like, it's funny that we as a society, and in particular WWE, canceled him. They canceled him. They washed him. They took him out of the Hall of Fame. He was just inducted. When was Hulk Hogan inducted as an individual? Because he was just inducted as part of Night 1 with NWO. How many times has he been inducted? Because a couple of years ago, that segment wouldn't have taken place. He wouldn't have been a headliner because Kane was headliner night 2. He wouldn't have been headliner with NWO night 1 just a few years ago. He was canceled. He was scrubbed from WWE. So I don't know what money they make, what they see, what they know. Apparently, they have all those data scientists now. They have 60 data mining scientists on staff. I don't know what information they're giving them about Hulk Hogan, like what returns they're getting, because every time he is in front of a live audience, they boo him. So, yeah, but at least he's dressed up. It's the first time. Like I don't know what they had to have paid this man so much money. He dressed up like Captain the Crunch. I can't imagine what they paid this man. So one of the very few highlights of WrestleMania. You guys have a great week, great rest of your day. I cannot believe I just did this long. Where'd my morning go? WrestleMania, I tell you, it's a gift that keeps on giving. I tell you, what we have to look forward to now, I couldn't tell you. You have heels running roughshod over both shows. Unstoppable. Rhea Ripley, who's excited about her after her match, not me. So Bianca Belair, it's up to you. That's like the one thing I think people universally, no matter what, can be excited about as a babyface is, where does Bianca Belair go from here? And also, where does Sasha Banks go from here? Does Sasha Banks turn heel, or what's going on with that? So we'll have to wait and see. You guys have a great week, great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.